Applying for jobs nowadays can seem hopeless. You send out so many applications and you get little to no response. The problem is that you're probably not differentiating yourself enough compared to other candidates. So in this video, I want to break down several ways that you can make your application stand out. Let's get into it. Standing out is actually quite a relatively simple concept to get your head around. To stand out, all you have to do is do something different or something that other people aren't doing. Notice I'm not saying they need to be better, although being different and standing out generally lends itself for you being a better applicant. But you just need to distinguish yourself in at least one dimension to really stand out from the crowd, and that can be literally anything. Now, before we get into the main advice of how you can stand out, if you're serious about becoming a data scientist, then I've just released my brand new ebook giving you a full-on guide of how you can land a data science job in 2025. I've been a data scientist now for over 3.5 years in the insurance, e-commerce and supply chain industries. But my journey here wasn't straightforward. At university, I explored careers in consultancy, finance and even physics research. But when I discovered data science, I was captivated by the ways we can use statistics and machine learning to solve business problems. I poured countless hours into coding, courses and projects, and finally, after 300 applications, I landed my graduate data scientist job. This ebook distills what I've learned in my experience, giving you a practical guide of how to break into data science. Whilst I can't guarantee that you'll definitely land the role, it will definitely increase your chances. And for the whole month of January, it's 50% off using code EAGLE50. I'll link the ebook in the description below for you to check out. Right, let's now go over some ways that you can make your application stand out. There is a famous saying from Brazilian poet Mário Quintana, which says, "Don't waste your time chasing butterflies, mend your garden and the butterflies will come." It's essentially saying that it's better to create or build something that attracts the thing you want than expending loads of energy trying to chase it. And if I think back to my career, the biggest leverage that has happened to me has far been my online presence. Apart from my first job, I never actually went actively looking for more other roles. All other roles came about from recruiters reaching me on LinkedIn. A good, well-polished resume is still highly desirable, but how are your other profiles looking? Are your LinkedIn and CV optimized together? Are you posting frequently? These are things you should be considering when building a really good online presence. The term personal brand is thrown a lot nowadays, and some people may see it as quite cringy, but in my experience, the amount of leverage and career capital it creates is absolutely insane. In every mentoring session I have, I always tell my mentee to start building and creating something online. And to be honest, most of them don't do it. So by definition, if you do create something online like an online presence, then you will stand out. At a minimum, I recommend having a nice looking LinkedIn that is aligned with your resume. Here's my LinkedIn if you want some inspiration, and I also have a whole video explaining exactly how you should structure your resume, which I'll also link on screen here. The next stage is just to start posting stuff. Now, this can be anything, but preferably related to your job. I would also add a personal website or online portfolio to really bolster your online presence. So that way you have 3 things that's all about you. You have your CV, which is kind of like a business card, your LinkedIn, which is like the in-between, and your personal website, which is basically everything about you that if you want to know fully what you're about, your history, projects, XYZ, they go to your online portfolio. So those 3 things are kind of all the things I recommend you have to really get people to have a clear picture about you. And the final stage is having something like a blog, YouTube, or newsletter. This is where you'll post consistently and add actual valuable content. And this is how you develop an audience and really show off your skills and abilities. As I said, applying for jobs is just one way of actually getting a role. But recruiters spend a lot of time on platforms looking for candidates. So if you can bolster and improve your online presence, the chance and likelihood of a recruiter approaching you will significantly increase. Therefore, you're more likely to secure jobs in the future. I am convinced that everyone has some sort of unfair advantages that they can use in the job market. These are some of the most common ones I think most people can use. The first one is networking. Now I know people think networking, we all know this, but networking is really important. So reach out to data scientists who are your friends, family friends, ex-colleagues, friends of friends, just anyone you may know who's a data scientist, and start establishing a relationship with them. You're not necessarily just trying to speak to them purely to get a job, although most people are quite happy referring you, but building a professional network of data scientists is really helpful. I've seen this so many times where people will bypass initial interview stages simply from a really good referral. So having the more people in your network, the better. Again, it's similar to the online presence. You're building that kind of community of people who know you, and that kind of increases your surface area of applications and just really good professional things to happen to you. The second one is having some sort of educational or work background that's not directly related to tech. So let's say you used to work in marketing, insurance, finance, any profession that's not in tech. Then you have an advantage if you apply for data scientist positions in those areas because you already have the business and domain knowledge. Let's say you used to work in marketing and now you want to be a data scientist. I recommend applying for jobs which are marketing related because you're far better to stand out in that candidate pool because you have that previous marketing experience than purely graduates who have no experience in that field. This is an example, but really leverage your interest and academic background, work background for roles which will overlap with data science. I've seen this again work so well in the past for several people. And the third one is where you live. Now, hear me out. Most people want to work for big companies in big cities, which is great to have those aspirations, but you don't need to rush to get there. Particularly for your first role, there's nothing wrong with taking a data science job in your local area that you will still probably learn quite a lot. For example, my first job was for an insurance company where I had split half my time between London and Sussex. Now, luckily for me, my family lived in Sussex, so it's really convenient. And this is an example of where a company which is probably not desirable mainly because of the location and the commute time, but for me, it was fine because, like I said, I had a base in Sussex. So, again, it's a really small example, but it goes to show you that be a bit more flexible about where you're looking. And there's nothing wrong with taking something close to home or something that is not in a big city to start with and then eventually transitioning yourself. There are so many more things I can think of, like speaking another language, being really good at a certain sport, playing a certain instrument, being really good at certain software, literally anything. The trick is, it is a quiet trick. Find something that you're really passionate about and good at and see how you can interweave that into your data science application. Once you figure that out, then I promise you, your chance of success in the field will be a lot more. When I was trying to land my first data science job, I personally really regretted having too many easy projects. All my projects were pretty much the same, where I'll just change out an algorithm, but they weren't necessarily interesting to talk about because they're all very similar. In reality, what works really well is having one project that can really wow the interviewers and be a big subject of discussion during the interview. My suggestion to aspiring data scientists is that first build a few little projects just to get a hang of things, but then go for something quite big. Almost choose something that you think you can't do, but do it anyway. That's kind of the attitude you should have. And the fact that you think you can't do it will mean you learn a lot. So choose a project that's quite ambitious, that's big, may take you a couple of months to complete, something on that scale. To give you a more concrete example, instead of building a model in a Jupyter notebook, try and deploy that model on AWS. Try add unit tests to that model. Make it give live decisions. Store those live decisions in a database and then report that on a dashboard. Basically build a whole end-to-end pipeline of your model. That is something that's a lot more impressive than just having the model in a Jupyter notebook. Again, this is one example, but there's so many more out there. The point is, choose something of sufficient difficulty and time that'll be a really good talking point in the interview. If you enjoyed this video and you want more data science advice like this, then make sure you check out my weekly newsletter, Dishing the Data. I send it every Monday morning, and it's all about my thoughts and experiences as a practicing data scientist. If that sounds interesting, then I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check it out.